I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. So thank you so much for joining us and my Foxy listeners today, Terry.
Yes, I'm excited to be here and get into hopefully a great conversation.
So as I was saying before we actually hit the record button, I was like really doing some stalking of you online, as I do for all of my guests. But I was really intrigued by your story because you started out, of course, as a painter, which most people would kind of go, let's see how did that leap happen?
Yeah,
And I also heard you talking about how, your first 10 years of business was kind of not all it was cracked up to be. So tell us a little bit about your story and about those.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I can pull out any one of a lot of stories I have because when I started my business, the only thing I knew when I graduated high school is that college wasn't for me. Well, actually, I tried it. It was the worst 4 weeks of my life.
But you gave it 4 weeks.
Yep. But I met my wife when she was just 15 and I was 19. And here we wanted to get married. And I promised her I was going to be a successful business owner because if you don't have a degree, that's the next best thing, I think, is own a business. And I knew I wanted to be a painting contractor only because it was the easiest trade there was probably to learn. I didn't want to take the time to apprentice as a plumber or a carpenter. And so I grabbed a bucket and a brush. I had an older brother who painted summers to put himself through college. So with what little bit I knew, an old rusty pickup truck, I started my business. And quite honestly, I was a train wreck at first. It was it was really, really tough. I always say I've been at both ends of the extremes, both extremes. I'm sorry. As far as being successful and unsuccessful, those early years, I was just fighting it out in low price wars with competitors, and that's always a race to the bottom. It seemed like the only jobs I would get were the ones that no one else wanted. And I can even remember doing things I was so desperate at the time, like agreeing to vacuum a person's carpet for an extra $20. Just sad the stories like that I had. I used to be embarrassed to tell, but now I look back at them and laugh because they got me to where I am today.
Hey, those were great add-ons, maybe not for the price, but
yeah, they were. And it was more just I was desperate for money and I just couldn't I didn't know how to create business. I didn't know how to talk to people. And I don't want to get too far ahead on the story, but I could tell you exactly what the changing point was for me. A lot of people know what year things turned around for them or what month. I can tell you what minute in my life when everything changed. I was 28 years old and I came home just like every other day, just depressed about my work, smelling from kerosene fumes from working for new contractors inside. And my wife looked at me and I could tell she'd been crying, and never a good sign, right? When you come home, she's sitting there on the couch and I said, "What's wrong?" And she said 3 words to me that changed my life forever. And they weren't, "I love you." They were, "Terry, I'm pregnant." and that was it. When she said that, I can't really explain it. It was like a switch had flipped in my brain. All of a sudden, this crappy lifestyle that I'd been providing was no longer going to be good enough. I had a son on the way. We knew that, and I was going to change that. And I took action. I did a lot of things, and maybe we could talk more about them. Just for now, though, I'll let you know that by the time my son was born, I had doubled my income. And over the course of that next year, doubled it again. And I didn't learn anything new that I didn't know those previous 8 years. What I did is I just started taking action and acting on ideas rather than letting life just happen to me. I started creating the life that I wanted and making that happen.
So yeah, let's dive into that a lot more, because I think, you know, that story really resonates with me, because I feel like, you know, everybody goes through, you know, where you have this moment in your life that almost becomes a tipping moment.
Mhm.
And there's different ways that you can tip, obviously,
Yeah.
sometimes towards success. So let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you did that helped you sort of create that success.
Absolutely. Like I said, I was a business owner. I wanted to paint for homeowners. At the time, I was doing new construction, working for contractors, and some of those guys are great to work for. But again, I got the contractors that the other smart painters didn't want to work for, the guys that paid their bills real late. So I had to work by myself in that. But the first thing I did when my wife told me that is I quit all three contractors I was working for. I know that sounds crazy. And I told her, I said, trust me, I'm going to make this work. And having the attitude that I'm going to take action. And some of the things that I did is I joined a professional association, NARI, the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. And it was quite by accident, because I heard about a painter that had got into a spring and home and garden show at a mall, local mall. And I thought, you know what, why not? I'm going to give it a try. And this painter wasn't from around here. So I was the only one that sold painting services in the show, in the home and garden show. And what I found out is it costs like $500 to be in. But if you were a NARI member, you got in for like $100, and the NARI membership was like $400. So it was a no brainer.
Yeah.
But it turned out when I joined that group at professional association, instantly in the eyes of my customers or my prospects, I was like one of them. I was all of a sudden had proven myself, and I was a professional, even though nothing had really changed. But that was huge for me, joining a professional association. And that's what I recommend that people do, in no matter what you're doing. And then getting into that show, I probably got 50 or 60 leads, which I didn't get 50 or 60 leads in a whole year. And I started giving bids and seeing I was getting lots of work. And then I started hiring people. I got 3 or 4 people. So I was able to leverage my time. What I used to get done in a week, I was now getting done in a day, and learned a process or a system. I learned the types of painting that paid the very best. And for me, it was being outside, had a higher perceived value, and spraying aluminum and cedar sided homes, because mask and spray goes very fast. Instead of needing workers who can brush and roll, more skilled work, I just needed people that can mask and cover. And just the spray guy had some skill, and we started turning jobs over very quickly. And by the end of that first summer, which was really a big learning experience, as I mentioned, I had doubled my income, more so, even more than that, but I try to keep it reasonable so people believe that I'm not making these fantastical claims. But in all honesty, I had increased it 4 times over in the period of a year and a half. And it was just because I went into that type of work. I claimed that I was the area's qualified refinisher of aluminum siding. And I didn't know, nobody was keeping track, but I went ahead and claimed it. And nobody said, no, you're not the best, you're not the professional. But what I found was just, it's better to beg forgiveness than to ask permission, right? And I just took the lead, and I did what I had to do at the time, and everything changed for me. And then the next big takeaway for me was, I actually learned that homeowners, they weren't out there, they weren't looking for the cheapest painter, or not necessarily even the best guy, the best, most skilled painter on the planet. They wanted someone who would just do what they said they were going to do and clean up their mess at the end of the day. They weren't looking for the greatest, and they were willing to pay my price. And I've slowly, got those have worked up over and over and over the years. But I've done so much research. I give my customers testimonial forms that I ask them what it is that they're looking for in a painting contractor. And what I would find out is very few of them said, oh, we want the guy that does the best job in town, or we want the cheapest painter. They just, most of the time, they would say things like, you were easy to talk to, and if they had questions, we could come to you, and you were polite, and your crew was nice to work for. You didn't make a mess. You showed up when you said you were going to be there. And because of all those testimonials I got back, I mean, literally hundreds of them, I created what I called the 4 abilities. And I've had so much success with that. I turned it into a book. People are saying, why don't you write this all down and do something with this? And that's what brought me to the book that I wrote a few years ago. And it's called Attract and Keep Customers for Life.
Well, and I think that point is such a key thing of asking your customers for testimonials, asking them for what
Mhm.
their experience was like. And a lot of people don't do that, but that's where your main, I found too that when I started doing that, that's where I discovered that the strengths that I had were not the ones that I myself personally thought, because what
Mhm.
was really beneficial to my customers was sort of just like second nature to me. Like you said, one of the things that they loved the most was how polite you were and that you were on time. That to you probably just seemed like, well, wouldn't everybody do that? Like,
Yeah.
it seems like such a simple thing, but is so huge to them.
Yeah, and I know I'm point on with these things because I've done them over and over in my business. But the when people say, "Well, how do you really know? How do you know what you're doing is working?" The answer I have for them is I haven't advertised since 2012, and I still turn away more jobs than I take because it's all just like what you said, word of mouth. It's so important that they're happy with your work, even though an outside that we paint doesn't need painted again for maybe 15, maybe 20 years. I still do a repaint at least once a week, and everything else is referral. And it's funny when people call me and they leave messages on my answering machine and I call them back at the end of the day. The first thing that I'm going to say, maybe 80% of them say, is you're the only person to call me back. And it just blows me away because these other people, they're paying for marketing and advertising, and they're not taking advantage. They're not calling people. As soon as they get booked up a few weeks or a few months, they think, oh, I'm good. I don't need to call them back. And I'll start answering my phone again when I need work. And it's just a crazy way to look at things, I think. So I know the things that I'm doing are working. And what I found is what I call the four abilities, and is how I kind of, for me to understand something and learn something, I got to break it down to its simplest. And I thought the number one takeaway that I wanted people to know is trust is the most important thing you could do, is build trust with your customers. But that's a stretch. I mean, people aren't going to trust you instantly. So I thought, well, before that, I got to make myself more believable or create credibility. And then even before that, I had to make myself likable to my customers so they'll open up and allow me the chance to sell to them. So that's where I created what I call the four abilities: likability, believability, trustability, and then wowability.
So let's dive into the book a little bit. So of course
Okay.
as you had said before, you wrote this book because you had sort of realized that these things that you were doing were working really well, and people were like, "Hello, we want to learn from this." So
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit about, what that was like to go from being a painter. I'm sure, did you ever think that a book was going to be in your future?
No, heavens no. I had no idea I was going to do something like that. And people that knew me from school, they still, when they hear that, they ask, first question, they go, "You wrote a book?" Because I was like a D student in high school, and in English, I didn't. There's people out there that'll help you, editors and proofreaders and things like that. But no, I didn't think I was going to write a book, but I was so excited about it. I had so much information to share. And I realized this really does have value because I created under there's four parts to it, as I said, which are the four abilities. And I give little tips on how to make yourself likable. One of the main things I talk about is being on time, like you mentioned, and listening to the customer. So many guys get out there and they just run their mouth and they don't listen to the customer. They want to tell them what they want to tell them. But customers, that they're calling you because they have a problem and they need to be heard. They want to know you understand what's going on for them, why they called you in the first place. So listening was very big in terms of making yourself likable, understanding what their needs are, what it is that they really want from you. And then from there I went into believability, and that was credibility, which was doing things like showing up when you say you're going to be there. And I'm even a little bit early. I even call when I'm on my way. They love that I call first, and it's so rare. And I tell the story in my book that happened by accident, because I started calling people when I was on my way, because I was so busy every day. I didn't have time to give the bids. So I wanted them to be ready. I didn't want to come to the door and wait 10 minutes for them to go find their shoes and their husband and come back
Right.
outside. So I wanted them to be ready. But what I discovered is when I called ahead, that just blew them away. There's nobody ever does anything like that. And I instantly had their attention. They instantly realized that I took my business seriously. And calling ahead, being on time, telling them what they want to hear, talking about the little things that you do outside of just painting the house.
Yeah.
little things like,
And I like that. I think that
mhm.
that's such, such a key thing. Cause if you think about it, one of, even when I'm thinking, yeah, that would be something that would stand out for me personally. Cause one of the things I hate is, that the old joke will be there between 9 and 5, and you're
That's
like,
crazy.
that's a big window.
Mhm. Yeah, I was doing it even before cell phones. I was doing this before the internet, so I would stop at a payphone sometimes or just call from my house, say, "Hey, I'm gonna be there in 15 minutes." But now that everybody has a phone with them, it's so easy to call or to just give them a heads up if you're gonna be a little late because everyone has a cell phone now, and it makes it almost stupid easy not to do that,
Yeah.
I think.
And
And
I think it's beneficial because, people are busy these days and we kind of
mhm,
get sucked into different things. And,
mhm.
it's one thing that I always try to do now. It's not myself actually calling, but I always try to make sure there's some kind of automation going like, hey, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
Or, I think that reminder is important. And do you find too that it also helps the customer to feel like they're a priority, like you're thinking of them, they're not just a dollar?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just showing that you care for your customers. I've had people read my book and say, but how do you know this stuff? How do you know what good customer service is? How do you learn these things? And what I say to that is we all are customers. We all buy things and we know what we like. We know how we want to be treated. So it's easy to just turn it around and make it a customer centric business. In other words, just let them understand what the customer's needs are and try to provide that for them as best. I know you probably can't do everything, and I don't do everything all the time perfect, but they see that I'm trying, and I when I do screw something up, I correct it, and it just keeps me on track, for the next time. And you just keep fine tuning and fine tuning. But now I've done it for thousands. I think I've painted over 5,000 homes now,
Wow.
and I see over and over on my website. I have a link or a page just for testimonials, and people go there and they can scroll and see name after name after name, and they realize that nobody reads them all, but they see that this guy, takes his business seriously, and there's people just like me who are happy with his service. And like you said, in this day and age, people want to, they always read the feedback, and they need to see those customer reviews, websites like Angie's List and Yelp and places like that, that Google your business, and just they want to see what other people had to say about working with you.
Because I think that's, no matter how much we want to get away from that, I think we all read reviews, whether it's, purchasing a product online or purchasing a service, because you want to know that other human beings, have used this and have liked it, because it's hard to just base it off of, what that person who owns the business is saying about themselves, right?
Right. Yeah. The value is in the integrity of the person making the promises, right? Because when you buy a product, you can look at the structural integrity of it. You check it out, you can handle it before you take it home. You see there's a warranty or a guarantee. But in a service business, you're selling the invisible. So really you're selling the integrity of the owner or the person who's going to be doing the work, and anything you could do to boost that integrity puts you closer to making the sale and driving price, because people will pay. I mean, who'd have thought 20, 25 years ago that you'd see lines of people to spend $5 for a cup of coffee? But we see it now because everybody thinks Starbucks is the best and they want the best. And it's the same way in my business. My customers, they know I'm not going to be the cheapest, and a lot of them know I'm probably going to be the highest price, but I give them what they value, and that's someone who's solid and they can trust. And that's really what it comes down to when you're selling a service.
So I think we've kind of covered the first two of the abilities
Okay.
in our talking here. So let's talk about the third one,
Trust. Okay. And that
because this is a big one.
yeah. And one of the first things I do that inspires trust is they see me show up at the time I said I was going to be there, or a little bit early. And sometimes, they'll come to the door and say, "Oh, I need a few minutes since you're early." And I said, "No, that's fine. Take your time." And I'll look around for a little bit, because we do a lot of, I like outside painting. Even though we only have 8 months here in Ohio, we still do about 100 every summer. So we really have that process down. But that's one thing that builds trust, having that website that I can send them to. I tell everybody, if you don't have a website, it's going to throw up a flag, even if it's only just to say who you are and what you're about, because everyone has a website now. And if they can't find you online, people start to question that right away. So that builds trust. Showing integrity in everything that I do, and say that I keep my promises on the job, and they can read those testimonials of people said, yes, he said he was going to do this and he did that in the same time frame. I tell people when I can start, I give them usually a real close to exact date, except for, you can't guarantee the weather, but real close. And then I tell them not only that, when I'm going to finish. I created what I call the Power Six Pack. And what that is, it's 6 documents that I can hand the customer. They're little things like a sheet of some of my best testimonials. That's one of the Power Six Pack. Another one is proof of insurance. If I do email the bid over, I also attach with that a liability policy and my workers' comp sheet. And I say to them, I said, you can ask 10 painters if they're insured, and every one of them will tell you they are, but then ask for proof and see how many get back to you. So there's something that builds a lot of trust, is they see that I have the necessary insurances. So many guys I talk to, I even met a painter that tells him he's insured, but he's talking about his car insurance. He doesn't have liability insurance for his business.
Right.
Little things like that. So that's another one, a permission to nitpick certificate I give them, because some people, that's an awkward moment. They're not happy with something and they don't want to ask your crew. They barely want to ask you, but I welcome it. I give them a certificate that says this, it's kind of a joke. This entitles the bearer to nitpick all they want. I don't mind. And another thing that I do is what I call risk reversal. This is probably, of all my trust builders, this is maybe the most powerful one, what I call risk reversal. And it's in writing, and I say it, I look them right in the eye and I say, here's the thing, they say, well, you didn't write down about you were going to clean this up or that you were going to touch that up. And I say, in the end, here's the deal. I'm not going to turn a bill into you until you tell me you're happy. And some people think that's insane that I do that. And that scared me at first. I thought, boy, should I be taking that chance and actually tell the customers that I won't turn a bill in until they're happy? That could really come back to bite me on the rear, if making a promise like that. But what I found is it forced myself and my crew. My crew knows if I don't get paid, I can't pay them. So it forced everybody to up their game. And what I found is, now that we're conscious of that, we go out of our way to do more than we promise even. And people pay me even quicker now. There are times we're not even finished and they'll come outside and they'll say, are you ready for your check yet? I'm thinking, what? No, I said, I want to make sure you're happy with everything first. And it's just amazes me, because some people say, well, it's because you're extending trust first. Now they have even more trust to you because you're trusting us to pay me. And I've only ever been burning over 5,000 homes. One person never paid me. And I think that was his plan right from the get-go. And even though that happened to me the one time, I still think the work that I get because of that risk reversal, that turnaround, has paid me back 1,000 times over from that one time that I got burnt. So extending trust first is really, really big. And the way I do that is by telling my customers, in the end, I'm not going to turn a bill in until you tell me you're happy. It isn't just, I'm not just giving them a blank sheet where they could just say anything. I tell them everything that's on my sheet, my job sheet, I write everything out and I sign it, but I don't ask them to sign. I say, but everything on here I will do. And I agree to do everything on the list, and they agree to pay me when it's done to their satisfaction. And it's not even an issue anymore. People pay me even quicker, as I mentioned, because they trust me to do the job right, because I made that promise to them. And it works like magic for me. I get almost I get probably 9 out of 10 jobs that I bid now. But big reason for that is it's all referral and repeat, which of course is the best business in any business.
Well, and I think it's just those little things that you added in too that I think a lot of people need to think about, like, having that little nitpick certificate, even though it is like, a cute kind of funny little thing, but it almost sets a lot, it answers a lot of questions for people, because that's one thing, I think it transfers no matter what type of professional you're hiring. People are very shy about, questioning work that's done from a professional, because they feel like, should I say this? Is this going to upset them? Like they kind of know what they're doing. So,
Mhm.
so people are shy about that. And I remember that from, myself and my career of, being in the accounting world, is that
Mhm.
oftentimes I'd have customers that go, oh, I didn't really know. And I was like, well, why didn't you ask? Well, I didn't think I could. Well, of course you can. Like,
Yeah.
you're paying me to
Right.
do this. You should ask. But people, don't feel good. So that simple act sort of almost relaxes them. And like you said, helps to build that trust where they're like, okay, good, I can ask questions.
Absolutely. And so many people, if they're non-confrontational. And what I say in my book is there's only one of three things that can happen. Either they say something in the hopes that you'll make it right, or they don't say anything and just go away, never to be seen from or heard again. You just think, well, I'm not getting a lot of repeat business. And maybe that's why, because they're just finishing up, they're writing your check and just putting it behind them, saying good riddance. Or the worst thing, bad mouthing on social media is so easy to do today. You got to watch that and make sure that everything is good, and that people are putting positive statements on it. And I asked them to. Sometimes they're just so overwhelmed that I did everything that I promised, and even a little more if they mention it, that they want to know if they could do anything more for me besides pay me on time. And I say, yeah, if you want to write me a review on Yelp or Angie's List or whatever, that would be great, or Google, and any of those. And they're happy to do it. A lot of people I ask now, how did you find out about me? Because I don't advertise. And what I'm getting a lot of now is neighborhood, communities, online communities, and they would all share, hey, I got this painter, he's great, I found this roofer, and they all share the services. And a lot of people tell me that's where they find me at, is that my name comes up on those. And some tell me they've even seen it by 2 or 3 different neighbors in the neighborhood, all said the same thing, that I was the guy to use. And a lot of that reason for that is because they understand that if they're not happy with something, I want to know and I want to make it right for them.
Yeah. All right. So trust is number 3. So what is number 4?
That's wowability. I talk about the first 3 are really soft selling skills. And while wowability will sell jobs, because part of the Power Six Pack, I have that under wowability. Mostly what it's for is what I call referrals on steroids, because people will go out of their way to refer you if they see not only did you do a great job and everything you promised, you even did a little bit more. So in that category, I have things like risk reversal I talked about, getting testimonials, as many as you can, ask everybody. And sometimes that's the way you find out if they're not happy, because I have a sheet that I hand out, and it's a free download if a person buys my book, that they could get my testimonial form. And it's designed just to ask 2 questions that will elicit a positive response. I don't ask them, what did you hate about us? I ask, what did you love about working with us? And name 1 or 2 things that really stood out to you. And having that for them, knowing that, then I get that feedback. But plus, again, they see that it's important to me that they're happy, that I know that they're happy. And so that's one of the wow abilities. Risk reversal, guarantee that they'll be happy. That's one of the things. I use the testimonials in my marketing. That's how I wow them. I use another thing is what I call customer awareness guide. And this is something that I have. It's almost like the Power Six Pack, but it asks them 6 questions that it just so happen are all 6 things that I do, and that I tell people that they should be using. Also a free download with my book, where I asked the question, and I ran it in my local newspaper here. You can use it that way too. Or I said, here's 6 things you need to ask before hiring a painting contractor. And 1, can you give me references, people in the area? 2, do you guarantee your work? Will you stand behind it? So what that does is that instantly puts me on the customer side, because they see these 6 things. I thought, oh yeah, just like what you said, I never would have thought to even ask that question. And so I tell them, these are 6 things you should ask anyone, especially if they're coming to your home to do work, because the trust goes at a whole different level when we're coming to the home. So customer awareness guide is huge. That's something that's probably one of my most powerful pieces that I use, that are in the wow ability piece too, because it instantly puts me on the side of the customer and everybody else is on the other side.
Well, and I think you can do that, and, anybody who's out there listening, can do
Mhm.
this. And I think it's such a key thing, because sometimes people don't, they want to hire somebody, but they're like, I don't know what to ask. Like, I just know the outside of my, to use your industry, I just know the outside of my house looks crappy, but like, what do you ask? Like, what should I know? Because they don't know, they just know that they want it painted. So by
Yeah,
you offering up those questions, it sort of makes them go, oh yeah, I never even thought that would be something I should
yeah.
think about.
And these are all things that I found. I didn't make these things up. These are some of them I tried and I was right, some I was wrong on, but a lot of them came right from my customer, right from those testimonial sheets when I say, name something that you really liked. And the funny thing is, I really thought I knew the answer to those sheets would be, oh, you guys have nice straight lines, you do a nice job, and you get done in a timely way. I hardly ever hear that. What they do say, as I mentioned earlier, that, they say Terry and crew were nice to talk to. They were easy to talk to. If I had a problem, they didn't give me a dirty look and go moping around the house. They took care of it. But as you said, people don't know that they could ask those questions. And a lot of customers also, if you are a contractor out there listening, a lot of them don't know that they can be finding you work unless you ask, say, hey, I'm always looking for more work. If you would refer me to someone, homeowners don't know to do that. It's important to remind them that that is the way you get your business. And it's much cheaper than advertising.
Right. And works out really well. Cause like you said, it's been a very long time since you've, advertised yourself.
And things that come up in your line of work, like when you said you were an accountant and all that, that you find what the inefficiencies are, and you can address them. And if you can address them before the person even hires you or takes you on as a client or whatever, it puts you far ahead of everyone else. And that's what wowability is all about, is wowing the customer. And these are different ways to do it.
Yeah. I really love that term. That term is really sticking with me because one of the things, like, in just thinking in my own circumstances, I'm big on if I can't take the job or if it's something I don't want, I'll always like be very open about that and say, I don't think I'm the right person for you, but let's work to find you somebody. And I'll always work with them to find somebody that I think would suit with them better. And that could be for a variety of reasons. But it was just something I did because I knew what it was like when you would try to hire somebody and then they would just go, oh no, that's not for us. And then you're like, what? I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah.
But that was one thing that a lot of people said, they would then come back to me. And so when I opened up a retail store, I sort of used that. And if I didn't have something, I'd refer them to my competitor. And a lot of people, a lot of other business owners, like you had said, would say, but that's crazy. Why would you do that? Like, you're sending them away. And I would say, but no, because what I find is that they'll come to me first because they know if I don't have it, I'll direct them where they need to go. So I always end up being their first stop.
Yeah.
So I'm not actually sending them away. I'm actually gaining them. And I
Yeah.
guess that's part of that wow ability and building trust at the same time.
Wow, I love what you said there. You didn't read my book by any chance, did you? Because what I say in there, I mean, every time you talk about these things, I think of a place in my book where I said almost what you're saying. I said, if you can, try to never tell a customer no, like, no, we don't do that, or I can't do that, without at least giving them some options. Let them know. What you said is so point on. I see guys do it all the time. The homeowner will say, well, while you're out here, would you mind doing this too? I just don't have a ladder. And I go, no, we can't do that. They won't even do it for an extra charge. They just, no, that's not what we do. I say in my book, don't try, and if you ever do say no, try to give them some options, at least another place where they could go, or help them find someone else's. So it just, that goodwill that you build always comes back to you many times over. I'm a true believer in that.
Yeah. So now, of course, you have the book. We're going to have links on our blog where people can purchase the book and to be able to read all of the stuff that you have in it and dive into it a little bit more. But you've also created a course. So let's talk a little bit about your Unnoticed to Unforgettable course.
Oh, thank you. And I call it that just because that's what it's designed to do, to take a company or a contractor, or really just anybody, even if you didn't have your own business, it helps you go from unnoticed to unforgettable. Because that was me. I mean, when I started my business, as I said, I was a train wreck. Nobody knew me. Nobody wanted to know me. And by doing what I did, and sometimes people think that takes a lifetime to do that. It took you a lifetime, but not really for me, because it all changed for me in I had my business for 8 years first before I turned it around. But once I got my head together and realized what I should be doing, I turned it around in just 8 months, in the time it took for my wife to find out she was pregnant till we had our child. So the turnover time is really, really quick there. And going from unnoticed to unforgettable is just treating your customers the way they want to be treated. And in the course, what I did is I take a lot of the ideas in my book. A lot of it is just talked about, but in the course, I take them by the hand. I say, here's how you do this. This is where you can go to get this. You know, a lot of free downloads, ways to help people, just basically taking them by the hand and walking them through the steps of these 4 abilities to make themselves more likable, believable, trustworthy, which is absolute gold, and then how to wow like no one else. And the course just puts it into action. You know, it shows them where to go, what to do, organizations that they could be a part of, even if, you know, they think, well, I'm not in the home improvement industry, I don't have nary, but I don't think I've ever met anyone that wouldn't benefit from joining a group like Toastmasters. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or not.
Yep.
Love Toastmasters. I've been a Toastmaster for 12 years now. And I did it because the person helped me write my book wouldn't help me if I didn't join Toastmasters, because she saw it was that important. And I didn't see it at the time. But oh my gosh, that's changed my life, because I thought it would help me be a better speaker. But really what it did is it helped me with my leadership skills, which is a big part of Toastmasters, but it helped me communicate with my customers with confidence. And that's the biggest thing I think I've gotten out of it, that believability is a two-way street. It isn't just helping your customers to believe in you. It's also about helping you believe in yourself, because if you don't believe your services provide 10 times the value, then why should your customers believe it? And joining groups like Toastmasters, and I easy to find different groups around. I talk to in the book about where they can find different groups that meet at different times of the day. Some are morning, some are evening, some are lunchtime. And that's just one of hundreds of things that are in my course.
So one of the questions that you know, and this is kind of going back to before, but when you were talking about, you know, believing that, you know, if you're not providing that sort of 10 times, when you were first starting out in your business and you were kind of just trudging along, how did you flip that in yourself? Because I think sometimes a lot of people struggle with, you know, they call it that imposter syndrome, where they feel
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't, you know, am I better than the other guy?
Yeah.
So what would you say if somebody is sort of struggling with that and going, I kind of sometimes feel like an imposter though?
Way it helped, the way I got a lot of help, that same person who helped me write that first book, she said, from this day forward, Terry, you are no longer that wannabe. You don't believe, you are the man. You are the expert in your industry. And I remember looking at her and go, oh, you mean you're talking about fake it till you make it? And I go, and to me, that just never felt right. She says, no, it's not fake it till you make it. Practice the future. And when she put it like that, said, you are right now, you are that blue jeans executive, is what she kept wanting to say is who I was. And I started, you got to believe in yourself beyond what anyone believes in you. And turning it around wasn't as hard as I thought it was. If you want to call it fake it till you make it, okay. But I did practice the future. And I'll tell you, within 8 months, I was living that life that I wanted to live. I mean, a lot of people can say what they make, they can just throw numbers out there, but it really was true for me. We were in a little 1-bedroom apartment when I first decided I was going to turn this around. And at the same time, my son was born. A few months later, we moved into a brand new home. And it was all because I believed in myself and knew I could do it. And sometimes it is hard, but you need to just look at where you want to be, find somebody out there who is living the life you want, and talk to them. People are so nice. I found when I started, as I mentioned, the internet wasn't even a thing. There was no internet. Now you could get on and chat. See, around here, it would be hard to talk to other painters for me back then, because I was their competition. They're not going to give me any of their great tips. But today, anybody can pick up or just go online, go into chat rooms, and I could talk to painters all over the country, all over the world even, and find out what works for them. And you can brainstorm. It's so easy to find what you really need to do and what you need to be. With the internet, it makes it, again, so simple to do that why would anyone not want to do that? So
I love that terminology. I love the practice the future, because you're right. I mean, it essentially does mean the same thing as fake it till you make it, but I never agreed with the fake part, because I thought,
right.
you're not faking it. You know how to do this.
Mhm.
It's the whole reason why you either got an education towards it or you've been practicing it. So you're not faking anything. You know what you're doing. You just need the
Mhm.
confidence to back that up.
Yeah.
So
And
I
put
love
a,
that rephrase.
a story that I tell in my book is the way to put a positive twist on things. Again, I use my business. I used to drive up to people's homes in this old beat up pickup truck. Oh my gosh, you ought to see this thing. Had overspray all over it, had little pipes for ladder racks. I had used ladders on top, had 4 may pop tires. Those are tires that may pop at any time. And I would park on the street. I was afraid to park in the driveway because it leaked oil too. And I just hope they didn't see it, and they'd look, and I wouldn't bring it up or anything. But when I started turning things around, I decided, you know what? Transparency is huge when it comes to building trust. I just said to him, I said, look, I know you see, I'm young, you see, I drive an old beat up truck, but I found a way to put a positive twist on it. I said, I didn't say, trust me. I said, if you'll give me a chance, I'll bust my butt for you. I won't work for anyone else. That was easy because no one else wanted me anyways.
But they
And,
didn't need to know that.
yep. And as you can see, I have my overhead is very low. You can see by my truck, you're not paying for my brand new van. I'm affordable. I can start tomorrow. I'll stay here. And I just spun it that way. And people started to give me a chance. And at first, when I would say, please trust me, the first thing, what do you think? I'm not going to trust this guy if he
Yeah.
says trust me. But I changed trust me to just give me a chance, because then people were like rooting for the underdog kind of. And it worked. It really worked for me, that people would start to get behind me, and they'd say, yeah, well, maybe how about when you're done there, you want to go do this over here too? And they supported me. And over a period of months and then years, I got stronger and stronger. And it got to the point where I'm ready for anything, and people know I'm the real deal because they've seen me forever. I put job signs out in the yard, and when we get into a neighborhood, everybody's house looks the same as the neighbors. And as soon as one paints, the other one starts looking at their home, and they see you have a system and a process. That was another thing that was about wowing my customers, was finding a system for doing things that you do every day and just become really efficient at it. You hear those stories about, or maybe you see those Amish crews that roof a house in one day. They'll go out there and there'll be like 20 of them on the roof, and they're in and out in one day. We kind of were like that. We didn't have 20. There would only be 4 or 5 of us, but the people would just be so blown away that they would see us when they left their house in the morning, just starting and loading the van, and they'd come home at the end of the day and we were packing up the van, done with the house. And having a system was another big thing, and something that I definitely talk about in my book as being very, very important. A process or a system of what you do over and over, preferably the things that pay the best.
Yeah. And I
If
think
that
that
makes
that's
sense.
so important, because that also helps to make sure that you're not missing anything along the way,
Mhm,
right? It's almost that glorified checklist
mhm.
where you can make
Yep.
sure you're keeping the standard up, especially as you grow. Then you've kind of have that set thing of like, it almost becomes a training manual, to say, this is how we do things.
Yep, exactly. And the guys, they want to get away from it. Sometimes I say, no, that's not, we're going to do it this way. Trust me, I've been doing it this way all my life. Sometimes I'll hire a painter who had worked for someone else, and we just do things different because we know spraying is the best way to paint. So we spray everything that we can, and what we can't spray, we use a roller for, and what we can't roll, we brush. So brushing's nice, and a lot of guys want to do it, but we found that it isn't the most efficient way to paint, and we get nice straight lines if we can spray. And so it's just a matter of realizing what works best. And most people, like I said, most homeowners, or I'm sorry, contractors, they know where their inefficiencies are. The employees know, and you just look at what you do every day and look for better ways to do it in less time.
So,
Just
okay, so we've talked about the book, and we've talked about the course, for
mhm.
people in business. Now let's flip it completely over for just a quick thing. If someone's out there going, you know what? I actually want to get my house painted. Let's talk about what they should ask when they're looking for somebody. Because as I was sitting there, I was like, I should know these things. So what are the things that you recommend that people ask if they're looking for somebody to paint their house, besides
That
calling your company, obviously.
that is a great question, and they should be all things. If you do hand that to your customer, it should be all things that you do as a contractor. But no, I should have that list in front of me. But I'm gonna try and wing it as best as I can.
Okay.
If you're having someone come to your home, wouldn't have to be anybody, any kind of the home services. I mean, trust is big because they're coming into your home, and that, we watch Forensic Files a lot, and there's a lot of weird people in the world. So people are they're apprehensive, right? So one thing I tell them to ask is ask to see proof. Don't just ask if they're insured, because everybody will say yes. Ask to see proof of insurance, and that's a liability policy against any damage on the property, damage to the worker. I mean, workers maybe get hurt, so they're not suing you, and workers' comp policy. I have that on the backside of that form, and again, that just shows that everybody working on the job site is covered by insurance. So that's a big one. I asked them if they can, I would say ask about hopefully local people, other people around that they have used before and that it was a good experience, or like you'd be able to want to talk to other customers of theirs. So you should be able to give them proof of other jobs, and could even show them the work. If what you do is like a painter, it's easy to see, and I'll just give them addresses sometimes to drive by. That's a good question. You want to make sure you ask them, what is the policy as far as how do you pay? I mean, do they want half up front? Do they want paid immediately right when they're done at the end? Find out what the terms are. Do they have 30 days to pay? And some people are really rigid on that kind of thing. They act like, well, I did the job, I need paid right now, I want to check. And I tell people, take as long as you need to take, just, within reason. It'd be nice if you'd send me a check. and if I don't get a check in a week or so, I'll call and I'll just say, I don't say, hey, where's my money? I just say, is everything okay? I just wanted to follow up. And usually they bring it up then. So again, it's kind of a soft sell sort of a thing. Another good question, I'm trying to think of organizations, professional organizations that you belong to. I like telling people I belong to NARI. Again, it puts you to the level of everybody in there. It's just one of those little things that puts people at ease. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Free estimates, that just goes without saying. People ask that sometimes over the phone. So that's always good to ask if they charge for the estimate. A good question is, when can they start, and how long will the job take? Some will say, I'm not sure when I can start. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'd love to be able to say, if you agree to have the work done now, I can be ready to start in 3 weeks. We'll have to come out on say a Monday, for example, do the pressure cleaning, let it dry for 2 days. Then we'll be back on Wednesday to start painting, and we'll be finished on Thursday afternoon. When you can say something like that, people go, whoa, that's part of that wow ability. It just proves that your job, your business. And if you can do that, I know big jobs, you can't maybe float the job. You're on a 2-month job, maybe you probably are going to need money up front. And I do ask for money up front if it's a big job, but our business model is in and out in 1 day, maybe a day and a half, 2 days. And that's what works well. And then when you can position yourself as the guy that does just that types of work, then life gets really easy. Like that. So I try to avoid the jobs that are labor intensive. They're going to take weeks or months. So look at the things that you do in your business. No matter what business you're in, there are some things that pay great, that always go well. You never get nitpicked, for example. And for us, we found that's when we come in and mask and spray aluminum sided homes and cedar sided homes. They go beautiful. My guys know what to do, to the point where we don't even have to talk. They know exactly what to do. They know what side to start on first, the sunny side maybe, or if it's a hot day, the shady side. And so those are good questions you want to ask. Sorry, I go down those rabbit trails sometimes.
No, that's okay. And I think that's an important one is, no matter what service it is that you're looking for, is getting a good understanding of the time frame, because, nothing sets you off more than you're like, I really thought this was going to be done days ago.
Nothing more
why
frustrating.
Is this taking so long?
Yep, nothing. I say that in my customer awareness guide. There's nothing more frustrating than a 4-day job that took 4 weeks to do.
Right.
It just, yeah. And they leave things tore up, and there's only a couple things contractors that come to the home have to really pay attention to. And it's so simple. It's just, if somebody calls you, call them back. If you say you're going to be there at that time. And if you make a mess, clean it up. But so few people, there's only maybe 10% of the people out there, the contractors, actually follow those 3 simple little rules.
Yeah, the cleanup one is a big one, I got to tell you.
Yep. If you make a
That's
mess,
one
clean
that
it up.
I'm like, honestly, like
Yep.
the last thing
Oh
I
my.
wanted to do when someone else came into my house was have to clean up after them. That's all I
Yep.
do.
And even, yeah, exactly. And even on our outside jobs, I tell the guys when I have a new person, we'll pull in the morning, 8 in the morning. I'll say, now look around, look at the yard, look at everything. This is how it needs to look when we leave today. And that covers it right there. But so few guys think about that. Again, every one of these things I'm talking about comes back to what the foundation is. You're doing what your customers, what makes life easier for them. So it's that customer centric attitude. Showing you care, really. It's the golden rule. You just do unto others as you want them to do unto you, right?
So let's talk a little bit at the website, because you said it was, an important thing to have. You do have one. I was searching on it. So talk a little bit about, well, obviously plug the website address, and then talk about what people can find on it.
Okay. Are you talking about my painting website or my book selling?
For the book and the course. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
We'll make sure we link to the painting one too, for anybody who's in that area.
Yeah. And the only reason you might want to look at mine would be if you wanted to see what a testimonials page looks like, or before and after pictures. I have mine to music on there so people can look at the before and after. But the website where people can get my book or can go ahead and download the course is my name, terrybegue.com. So, and I know that'll be in the show notes. It's hard to spell my last name because it doesn't look like it sounds, but even there at terrybegue.com, I also have a free download if anybody wants to go on, which is what it is it's 7 ways to grow your business without spending a dime. And I talked about some of these little things that are very powerful that will get you more business. And they can download that for free. Also, my book is at amazon.com. They can download that or get the physical copy. And what else? And the course is actually made up of 24, 25 different videos where I sit right there, right like I am right now in my office, and we just talk through some things. And there's a workbook that comes with it that's over 100 pages long. I have a person who helped me with it who just talks about mindset, the importance of getting your head straight first, a business mindset that'll grow your business unlike nothing else.
Perfect.
But it's all at terrybegue.com.
Okay, so now tell us the painting one, because I know there's going to be some people that are out there that are like, hang on, I'm near Ohio.
Okay. Yep. That's beguepainting.com. And that's my last name, Begue painting.com. You go to there, there's all kinds of windows to look at, or neat little things, articles that I've written for painting magazines, and just little things that separate me out from the other customers. And that's the idea. If you look at it, maybe you'd pick up on that is my site is not like anyone else's. I have in bold print where people look at articles written by Terry Begue, and they see that I've written articles for national magazines. And that, again, it speaks to the trust thing. It shows that you take your business seriously and you want to help other people have a great business like I have.
Yeah. And you wouldn't think that, like, it wouldn't cross my mind that a painter would write articles, to be honest.
Right.
So now I have to go find them.
they're industry articles, but they're not necessarily about painting. Again, really what I write about is keeping the customer happy, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, Terry. Thank you so much for talking with us, not only about your book, but there's so many tips in this episode, no matter what industry you're in. I think that people can take and start implementing right away to really make some, small changes that'll make huge impacts.
Yeah. And Tanya, I've had such a great time. Most podcasts, I do a lot of these. Nobody gives me the time like you did to help me explain. I hope you didn't run on too much.
No, not at all.
But I'm so grateful for you to give me all this time and attention. It's been wonderful. And I wish you luck on your business and your podcast. I know we're going great. That was the one thing I could tell right away when I checked you out, is that you take your podcast very seriously, and it shows, it comes across. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you so much to Terry for coming on the show and giving us so many great ideas of things you can implement in your business that are small changes that can make a huge difference in connecting with your customers and helping them be repeat customers. So don't forget to head to our website at foxtalksbusiness.ca. Click on blogs on the left-hand side of the page. You're going to find all of the links to where you can connect more with Terry, find out about his course, Unnoticed to Unforgettable, and as well his book. Next week, I'm excited to welcome Charlene Norman to the show. Charlene has always believed in breaking past the barriers and is part of the new frontier, pushing the boundaries for the future. She knows 3 things. 1, business is not nearly as complicated as it seems. 2, making money and making an impact on the world is one and the same. And 3, all business starts and ends with people. She's going to talk to us about her 5 M's that are baked into her organization and how she helps people learn them and use them to their advantage. So you're not going to want to miss that episode. As always, if you can take a few minutes to give us a rating wherever you listen to us, subscribe to our show, wherever you like listening to podcasts. And as well, if you like to put a face to the name, visit our YouTube channel. Make sure that you hit that subscribe and the bell so you can get notifications every time an episode is released. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Keep those messages coming of topics you would like to hear about. And no matter what you're doing today, whether you're changing a small thing in your business or whether you're totally revamping, take time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?